Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, UniCredit's chief executive wants to decide by the end of the year, this year, whether to make a takeover offer for Commerzbank pending the new German government's willingness to allow the deal. Now, this comes as the Italian lender reported record profits for the fourth quarter. Well, Andrea Orcel, the chief executive of UniCredit, now joins us. Andrea, as always, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your very busy schedule. Now, you had some very good earnings. When you look at the levers of what rates are doing and the, I guess, underlying nervousness in the global economy, what do you have to pull on to make sure that you're on target?
Well, Francine, I would say that we have waited for this moment for the last 4 years. We crowned 16 quarters of profitable growth. We are well prepared and we've laid the foundation for the next 12. And if you look at our messaging, not only did we reach record results of 9.7 billion, but we absorbed more than 1.3 billion on extraordinary charges and reinforced further our provisions and and kept intact our overlays. So for us, this was the start of the next 12 quarters where 12 quarters where we would be more focused on growth and we would be in a position to offset the normalization of rates. So we've said that this moment was going to come. As we are today, I think we're one of the very few banks that will be able to keep costs flat in the next 3 years, that will be able to keep cost of risk flat in the next 3 years, and that has built factories to such an extent that our fee income will be able to offset initially most, but increasingly more than proportionally, the compression of NII coming from rates.
So whatever happens, that will be under control, and then you have all the M&A that you're possibly looking at.
Well, you can never say whatever happens, but I think we're very, very confident on what we're going to deliver. I think this year is not only for us a record in terms of net profit, profitability and distribution at 9 billion, it's also the start of the next 3 years where we want to first match and then increasingly beat that.
Andrea, talk to me a little bit about Generali. I mean, there was a bit of a surprise that you were above 5%. Can you break down the numbers in terms of what you have for UniCredit and what you're holding on behalf of clients?
Well, let's say that the investment in Generali is for us, as I have said, completely financials. We have no intention to buy or move strategically on Generali. They have been partners of ours for a long time. We distribute their products in a number of markets. We might be distributing some of their asset management, and it was the right thing to do when we built it up. It was leaked. When it was leaked, we said that our client had about 0.6%. We were at about 4.7. Now we are just over 5. Honestly, I don't think it's very significant.
I mean, there's quite a lot of people in Italy that's saying it also gives you leverage to negotiate with the government or the parties into what you're trying to do, but with Banco BPM. Is there any truth in that it's a good investment, but also, it gives you an advantage?
Look, it's a good investment, and we obviously, by having these stakes, we're a party to talk to. I wouldn't go as far as putting it as leverage or looking at a theory of a coordinated approach on BPM.
So it's nothing more than actually, you find it a good investment.
For the time being, it is a good investment that has returned well. We built it over several months, and we're sitting on a good capital gain, which is partially a hedge. So for us, it's a good thing for the bank.
Andrea, talk to me also about Commerzbank. So we had a lengthy conversation also in Davos. It seems that German officials are doubling down on not wanting to sell you the bank, frankly, even if there's a change of government come February 23rd. Do you see the tone changing at all?
Well, I don't know. From our standpoint, we were invited. We did what we said we would do, because as we were invited and we crossed to 9%, we said we would reach 29. We reached 29. We said we would ask for authorization from a regulator. We asked for that authorization. We also said when the tone changed that we would wait and not launch a transaction until we had the opportunity to sit down, go through the details and explain the benefit that this transaction has, not only for the two banks and their stakeholders, but also for the sector, German industry and Europe. So we're optimistic that when the emotions are off the table and we can focus on what this really is and what it brings, we're going to be successful in having support.
And I know you said that you'll only decide, I guess, in a year if you go hostile or not. Is this something that's on the table?
It's just that if you look at the timeline of elections, of forming a government, of having discussions on everything else, you're looking at 3 to 4 quarters minimum, and therefore that allows us as an investor to have an influence on Commerzbank, see what the performance really is going to be, and then take a decision when we have all the elements.
We also understand that Commerzbank is changing their strategy or adjusting their strategy this week, maybe also to fend off a possible bid from you. What would you do differently if you were in charge of Commerzbank?
Well, look, I think we'll see tomorrow, but we all would be surprised if the plan was not optimistic. It always is when someone tries to fend off attention that they're not pleased about. I think for me the important is, does the plan strengthen the bank? People overly focus on cost reduction. I think it is, does it strengthen the bank? Which means you search for efficiency, targeting your cost reduction in the areas that do not add value, that are duplicative, that are overhead, etc. But you then use a lot of that money, in our case more than 2/3, reinvesting the bank in technology, in data, in the network, in the factories, in strengthening the overall bank and in the people. I think for us, seeing plans that go into this direction, which we feel is our blueprint, gives us comfort. Seeing plans that just put up reduction doesn't. More importantly, specifically with respect to Commerzbank, I would say that there is concern on the state of their technology, the obsolescence, the fragmentation, whether or not they have ever integrated the two systems of Commerzbank and Dresdner from the acquisition, whether they're investing enough to modernize as opposed to just run. And their corporate center. Their corporate center has almost 45% of their assets. There is very little information on what those assets are, their duration, their risk, their rates of a fixed rate, not fixed rate. And most importantly, how that is important to running the core business. Right. Because I do think that nowadays banks have moved away from having a large corporate center with large assets that really don't have a day-to-day impact on running the business, and move on realizing results on running the business day after day.
Andrea, talk to me also a little bit about Banco BPM. So how close are you to getting more?
Well, look, I think they are announcing their plan today, or they have announced their plan today. I haven't had time to go through it. My expectation is it's, again, going to be quite optimistic. I think the question in all of these plans is, number one, you can put a good plan on the board, and let's see if that is the case. The second question is, are you going to be capable of executing it? And coming from 16th quarter of gruesome execution at UniCredit, I do think execution is difficult, particularly now with the environment going against you. So in the case of BPM, I guess, if we're successful, we'll never know. If we're not successful, we will. In the case of Commerzbank, we will have 3 to 4 quarters to observe whether what they put on the board is actually happening or not. That's what I can say. For us, BPM is clear. I think you know how many years it has been rumored, because it's very complementary to UniCredit. There are almost no overlaps into the network. There are no overlaps in the clients. We don't see any issue of concentration on SMEs. Actually, we can provide more support, and that's where the value is.
So regulatory approval should not be a problem, you believe?
Well, you never say that, but I would say that if you look at the numbers in terms of antitrust, in terms of a number of these items, we're very far away from having significant issues. So we're quite optimistic about that. With respect to regulatory approval, we're 2 strong banks, so that should come as well.
Do you think Crédit Agricole is behind you? I mean, it's
well,
main
look,
shareholder, there's agreements.
I think, like in any transaction, you need to convince the shareholders of the target to be with you. We think we have had a good shot at convincing Commerzbank shareholders. Look at where the share price is today. And I think on BPM shareholders, we need to do our work and show the value that we would bring, the differential value that we would bring, and why switching from BPM stock into ours can bring them even more value. I'm quite confident. We've had a long-dated partnership with Crédit Agricole in custody, in asset management, in other areas. They know us, so I'm quite confident eventually they will be positive to a transaction, but it's up to them to decide.
But are there active talks at the moment with Crédit Agricole?
At the moment, we are not, and we need to be quite careful with any interaction, because we need to treat all shareholders the same and pari passu, and therefore that's why with the offer in flight, we're quite careful.
Do you think the government will greenlight the deal in general? Have you had more conversations with the government?
Well, I do think that if you go back and you look at all the statements that have been made, I think they can be summarized that the government is observing with attention, because there are some things that clearly any government looks for. But at the same time, they have been quite clear that they're letting the market function.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, I think they're doing what they're supposed to do, and we'll do what we are supposed to do.
Andrea, are you pretty confident that UniCredit will be a bigger group in 12 months from now?
Yes, I was down by saying yes to your question in Davos, but I do think that one way or the other, the differential value that we will deliver through our main plan is going to further differentiate us from the competition. That should give us the credibility, the currency, to be able to grow through acquisition in the near future.
Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. That was Andrea Orcel, the Chief Executive Officer of UniCredit.